Thank you very much, everybody, for giving me your precious time. I certainly appreciate that. Let me get my screen up here. So we got a thumbs up on the screen. Looking good. All right. So I really don't understand why Paige didn't know what eat that frog meant. I mean, come on. What's, Anyway, I can't start out my training without reminding you that nothing in life happens without taking action, right? Sorry if I harp on that, but you know what? It's that important and that simple, okay? So many people in life are getting ready to get ready, right? So that's just an important thing, and so many of us just aren't doing it, okay? So I urge you. And, not saying that personal development isn't not important, but you need two legs. You walk with two legs, okay? That's going to be much better for you. It's going to be much more productive, all right? So imperfect action, personal development. And the reason I say imperfect action, actually all action is imperfect. It will always be imperfect. You will never be perfect, right? But we keep trying. So don't think like I don't know enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not any of that, because it's always going to be imperfect action. So two legs, take action, improve it. Take action, improve it. And that's going to get you along much further. All right. So what are some excuses that we have for failure? All right. You don't make time for your business, or you do the wrong activities when you do make time. Now notice I said excuses for failure. All right. And I didn't say you don't have time. Okay. You do have time. It's that you're not making time. You see, time management is really kind of a misnomer. You can't manage time. Time is really going along. What you can manage is your decisions, right? So when you say, instead of saying, I don't have time for something, say, you know what, that's not a priority for me. Because that's really what you're saying, because you're doing something, okay? So what we want to do is get rid of those excuses and start creating success. And what that means is we need to prioritize our day to include things for Activz, things for building your business. I know you have other things going on. I know many people are doing this part-time. I know we have families and children and everything else, but guess what? Most people do, okay? So when you're looking at your day of all the things you have to do, make sure that you're including those things for Activz, okay? Now, who doesn't love a good acronym, right? Next, we're going to create a DMO that includes IPA. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you what that means, because you're going to have to stay till later, and I'm going to, because I know that's just going to, you're dying to figure out what that is. But Mark Twain, here we go. What is it? If the first thing you do each morning is to eat a live frog, you can probably go through the rest of the day with the satisfaction of knowing that's probably the worst thing that's going to happen to you all day long, right? So, what is that? What is the frog, right? It's starting your day with that biggest, that most important, and probably most dreaded task, right? Instead of like dreading it all day, get it done, tackle it, right? That's usually the task that you're most likely to procrastinate on. And actually, it's probably the task that is going to give you the biggest result for that action, right? So that's what Eat That Frog is. You just go ahead, and dive in on that, right? The key to reaching high levels of performance and productivity is for you to develop the lifelong habit of tackling those major tasks first. Develop that routine of eating the frog before you do anything else, and without taking time to think about it, right? So believe it or not, we actually have frog eating rules, right? I mean, if you're going to eat a frog, you might as well have some rules, right? So the first thing is, if you got two frogs you got to eat the ugliest one first, right? And if you do have to eat a frog, don't sit there looking at it, right? You're not even eating frog legs, I don't know, right? You're doing something. The more you sit there and look at it, like, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, the uglier it gets. And the more the fear builds up in your mind. So you've got to get used to just jumping on it, developing that habit, okay? So we've got some productivity steps here, okay? So, select your most important task. Begin it immediately. That's that whole thing, like just jump on it, right? Focus on it, right? And then finish it. Right? It's sad that you actually have to put that step in there, right, to finish it. But just a lot of people don't, right? So that ability to, focus and get that most important task done and to finish it well and completely is just such a great key to success. Okay, every great achievement in humankind has been preceded by a long period of hard, concentrated work until that job was done, right? So your ability to select those important tasks, to begin it, concentrate it, and finish it is really going to be one of those keys to your success, okay? So let's break that down step by step. Selecting your most important task. Well, what is that? You've probably heard of this. You probably didn't know what the official name was. It's the Pareto principle. It's that 80-20 rule, right? That basically you're getting 80% of the benefit from 20% of the work, okay? So if if that's what you're focusing, if you're looking at your list, what that really means, if you reverse that, is 80% of the things on your list, and maybe even 80% of the things that you're doing aren't getting you very far. They're really only getting you, 20% of the way, right? So wouldn't you really want to flip that, right? Get that productivity up, okay? It sounds easy, but if you look at what you're doing, are you really doing those low return tasks, okay? That can be reprioritized, okay? So, every moment you should be thinking, is this an important task? Is what's going to have, that impact that I'm looking for, okay? An average person who develops that habit of setting clear priorities and getting important tasks completed quickly will run circles around a genius who, talks a lot and makes wonderful plans, right? Remember that, taking action, right? So what you really want to do is prioritize, okay? Stop pursuing those low value activities, all right? Stop being busy, right? So many people are like, oh, I'm busy. You know those people, they're so busy, but they never accomplish anything, right? What is that? So apply this rule to everything in your life, okay? Just ask yourself, is this what I really should be working on? Now, what do we talk about? Begin immediately. Don't stare at that ugly frog. I don't know if you've heard of Mel Robbins, but she has a 5-second rule. She says that your brain, you have 5 seconds to act on something, okay? So literally give yourself a countdown. I've said to schedule, right, in particular to Activz activities, instead of just kind of, falling down the list, actually schedule that time. This is when I'm going to work on, calling those people, following up, whatever. And when that time comes, boom, you just do it. You don't sit there and think about it. It's time to do it, right? Get off to the races. I say quit hitting the snooze on life, right? If you're one of those persons that are hitting the snooze alarm 3 times, right? That's just getting up out of bed, right? So a couple of very little things, right? Just, when you set your alarm clock, when you set that time, get up. Right? It's a very simple thing that you can do, but just to practice saying, when it's time to do something, do it. Okay? So, be uncomfortable. It might be uncomfortable at first. Get used to, being uncomfortable. Now, here's the thing is, for the most part, once you get started on a task, that fear just starts to drip away, right? And it's really not as bad as you thought it was going to be, right? And you start to develop this level of satisfaction. Okay, so instead of being on that downward spiral of being busy and not accomplishing and procrastinating, you're on this upward spiral of being used to like taking those tasks, the important tasks, and jumping on them and getting that feedback of, yeah, you know what? Hey, this isn't as bad, and now I'm accomplishing something. Right? Now, what's next? Focus. Right? Just get the whole multitasking word out of your language. Get it out of, and this, oh my gosh, I don't know if this shows up on my right. I mean, this is like the worst thing ever. I mean, it is the biggest distraction. It's to take that, think about this, before the smartphone, we never had this thing. It's like literally just coming at you every, research is like every 12 minutes, people are checking their phone. Okay, you have to learn to focus, and you can do really simple thing and turn off your notifications. Okay, just stop your social media, texts, whatever. I mean, you can just silence those. talking about scheduling, say, you know what, I will look at my texts and my emails, whatever, put it in there. Okay, say I'm going to look at that at, you know, whatever, 30 minutes from now after when I do these tasks, okay? And take that and put it aside. Stop with this whole, you know, I'm just letting my phone and my distractions control my life, right? Now, why is this important? And this is what we've lost so much with all these little tweets and bites and whatever, is that we've lost our ability to focus, okay? But, you know, it's been estimated that the tendency to start and stop a task, pick it up and put it down and come back to it, actually can increase the time to complete that task fivefold, 500%. So it takes you 5 times longer to complete that task than if you would just actually just focus on it and do it, okay? Because think about it. Each time you jump back and forth, your brain, you have to refamiliarize yourself with, you know, kind of where you were at and get back into. Even on little tasks, it kind of eats up time, you know, and you have to overcome that inertia to get going again. So you've got to, you know, develop that momentum again, all right? There's also this thing called attention residue. So when you leave a task unfinished and you jump to the next task, in your brain, there's this residual from the previous task. And you do that a few times in a row, and your brain is actually taking up this processing power and this attention because it's clinging to those unfinished tasks, okay? That's called attention residue, all right? So again, just another one of those things that these things have slowly crept into our lives and taken over. So it just take it off. If you can't do it, put your phone in another room. Delete the Facebook app off your phone, okay? Quit the scrolling. When people are asked how much time they spend on social media, they underestimate by about half. So if they say they're spending an hour a day on social media, when they actually track it, it's 2 hours a day, all right? All those little 5 minutes keep adding up. So now, I know this sounds so rudimentary, right? But actually finish. It's so important that we've made it a step. Discipline yourself to jump on that task and then persist until that task is done, all right? Successful people are the ones who launch into those tasks, discipline themselves to work steadily and finish it, right? Do nothing else until that job, you know, is complete. So now what we might say is, well, maybe I can't finish that task, right? Maybe, what are you talking about, right? I've got a big thing on my list, right? A16, that's what's all on our list, right? I can't do that today in 30 minutes. Okay, well, you know what? How do you do that? We're gonna take that down one step at a time. We're gonna break that into bites that our mind really can manage, okay? Because when you look at that, when you're looking at, oh, I've got A16 on my list, right? So a major reason for procrastinating is feeling overwhelmed, right? Overwhelmed, a confused mind doesn't act. So when your mind feels overwhelmed with this big thing, you know what you do? Nothing, right? If it sees all this thing, you know, all these things to do, you end up doing nothing, and it creates resistance, right? It's this blockade. So it's very simple. Break it down into manageable tasks. Then you can take those tasks and you can prioritize them within this project, right? So how do you eat a large frog? One bite at a time. So here's the really good news, okay? Success is predictable. Unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe not, depending on how you look at, so is failure. Success or failure is really the result of doing specific things over and over again. Well, you may have heard, you know, insanity is defined by doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So guess what? If you're doing the tasks of failure, you shouldn't be surprised when you fail. Just like if you are repeatedly doing the tasks for success, you know what? You really shouldn't be surprised, you know, if you have success, right? I bet if you go back and look at any successful person, and if you were able to look at what they did, you should be able to look at that and go, yeah, That's what they did. I'm actually not surprised that they are successful, right? You look at that. You know, Eric's been putting up these videos, and in a lot of those videos, they talk about, you know, what they did. You know, some of them are like, you know what? I worked my butt off, right? This is what I did, right? So, and you're like, yeah, I'm not surprised. So guess what? Here's some other really good news. Success is repeatable. If I take those actions that somebody else did and I repeat those actions, then guess what? I should create success too. I know, it's just, again, these simple concepts. And this is the great thing about Activz. We know the actions. You know what? You may start, you know, these people that, you know, invent a new product or even come up with new markets and new businesses, you know, these real pioneers in these new industries. You know, a lot of times they don't know the actions. They're really just, you know, they got to work 10 times harder because a lot of the stuff they're doing, they don't know if this is the right thing to do. We know. We don't have that mystery. We know the success steps that it takes in this business, and they're very simple, right? We ask people if they're open to look at information. Then we present that information. That's a brochure, that's a video, that's getting on one of these calls, right? Follow up with those people, okay? And then train new people to do the same thing. These are very, very simple steps. Simple, but again, because of our heads, right? They're not easy. So, I know you were dying for this. What's DMO? Daily Method of Operation, okay? This is one of those files that I've loaded up on the site. I have a PDF version and actually an Excel version also if you want to go in and edit this. Now, of course, you know, I'm only here to present to you Activz, you know, steps. But you could just as easily take this, right? Because I said you have other things going on in your life. Put that on your list, right? These are the things, you know, that I want to do. You might have, you know, exercise in there. You might have spending time, you know, with your family in there. Because you want to balance. I'm not saying just drop everything and go, but think about, you know, plan this. So take this, and when you track something, what do you have? You have something to go back and look, right? Now, one of the things you probably hear constantly about network marketing is, you know, 90% of the people don't make any money. Why? I guarantee you that if I looked at those 90% of the people and they had tracking sheets like this, and I looked at their tracking sheets, I guarantee that these first 4 columns here, these first 4 rows, I bet they had little to zero in those rows. They weren't taking action on this. You know what these are? These first 4, IPA, income producing activities. Actually, IPA fits in with imperfect action. Take imperfect action on income producing activities, and you do that repeatedly, and you will have success. Okay? So, I hate to burst your bubble, all right? But all the self-help gurus out there, all the personal development marketing, and even in network marketing, they're out there too. You know what they want to do? They want to keep selling you programs. That's really what they want to do. The next silver bullet. This is the new magic, right? There really isn't. There is no new silver bullet. If you go back, there are personal development books from 100 years ago. And you can take those and you can overlay those on so many things that are out there today. They just repackage them. There's a different person behind it. There's a different, message behind it, whatever. But I'm telling you, there really are no silver bullets. Okay. You know why? Because yes, things change. Technology changes, tools change. You know what doesn't change? People. I tell you what, if you were able to go back and look at the mental, blockades and everything, all the blocks that people had, 500 years ago, people were the same. Psychologically, we're still humans. We have the same fears. We have the same, problem with procrastination. You'd find the same people, that we're lazy. We always like to say the new generation is lazy or whatever, or this and this and this. But you know what? If you go back, you're like, you know what? You can find those people everywhere. I constantly find, quotes and speeches and whatever from 50, 80 years ago. And if you didn't know when they were from, you would swear they were from yesterday. Okay. So get this out of your head that there is some, new silver bullet that's out there that you're going to learn. Okay. That's going to, this is going to make me successful. Okay. Now I'm not saying there's not tools, there's not things, skills that you can improve on. Okay. But again, you got to take action. You can't be waiting for the next silver bullet. Now, this may get a little controversial, but I got to ruffle some feathers. There's some themes out there in the self-help industry that, I don't want to say I don't like, okay? And it's around this, creating vision. Now listen, I've done training on creating vision. I am absolutely a believer in that. Your subconscious, your vision of yourself creates motivation for you to take that action. Totally believe in it. But some of these people are taking this and saying, you know what, that's actually going to get it, right? All I have to do, if I visualize hard enough, all right, if I have enough dream boards all over my house, the universe is going to drop it in my lap, all right? That's just a load of crap. I'm sorry, it just is. What those things do is it does help create the motivation. It does make things more enjoyable while you're doing the action, but it does not replace action. Okay. And then here's the thing though, you learn best by doing. We've always done that. Before the introduction of institutionalized schools 100 years ago, we learned by doing. We had mentors. We actually worked side by side with people. Okay. So I have this story. Karen doesn't know I'm going to tell it. So maybe I'm not going to use her name. This person that I know that I'm married to, she was in a sales job. This was actually before we went into entrepreneurship. So this was over 20 years ago. And she got this sales job in telecom for this company. And she was in there learning. And I knew she was a salesperson, but this was her first official sales job. And so she got this brochure from these sales classes, and they were really expensive. I think they were like $7,500 or something. And it was, all this thing about, the new sales thing and technique. And I'm reading this brochure and I'm like, it was really, it's not like, keep your word, be trustworthy, all this stuff, like the things you learn in kindergarten. Anyway, I still wanted to be the supportive husband, but the fact of the matter is we didn't have $7,500. I said, here's the deal. It was a new job she was in. I said, go out, make some sales, earn some commissions, and then, we'll save the money and then we'll buy you the classes. Well, guess what? She went out and started selling. She got so busy with sales, she never had time to take those classes. Okay. So many problems are solved by you going out and taking action, this productive action, right? The correct action, the right action, right? Which is what we were trying to get to, in getting that frog lined up. Okay. But so many problems are solved by just going out because you're getting the satisfaction, you're learning by doing, and guess what? You're going to make some progress and go, hey, you know what? I can actually do this, right? So we have a formula, right? Those two legs. Here's another way of putting it. Action times skill equals results. Well, what happens if either one of those is zero, right? What's the results going to be? Zero. Okay. Now in your head, you might be thinking, okay, yeah, but I need some skill. You just said it, Ed. You said I could take action, but now you're telling me I need skill. Okay. Well, I'm going to give it to you, right? We know what the ask is, right? Hey, are you open to looking at some information that I believe could really help you out? There's 50 different ways to, word that. There you go. Your skill is no longer zero, so you have no excuse saying you don't have the skill. Now you got to take the action. Okay. Now, so the action is the imperfect action. The skill is, the personal development, all this other stuff that you're doing. Again, that's why I say it's not that I'm saying not to do it. It's not unimportant, but you got to balance it. So here's what happens, right? As you're taking that action and you're learning, and then you're learning some skills and you're improving your skills, that's where your productivity goes up. right? Now, you can overcome little skill by massive action, okay? Not zero skill, but little, and correct action. But we have that in Activz. We keep saying that. We have the correct action. We have the skill. This isn't just some, unknown business that you're trying to figure these two things out. We know it, all right? So in this formula, and you can apply this to really anything, okay, the level of skill before you take action, right, is kind of proportional to the amount of risk being taken. So what do I mean? Well, if you're going to perform brain surgery, you're going to want a little more than a little skill, right? You need a lot of skill. Why? Because the risk is somebody could die. All right. If you're going to, I actually many years ago, jumped out of an airplane, out of a parachute, not tandem. I did solo. Right. I had several hours of training before I jumped out of that plane, because the risk is I could die, right, or break my legs. Okay, what's the risk in Activz? What's the financial risk? First of all, to join, what are we talking about? $100. All right. What's the risk of going out and taking action, of picking up that phone, sending that message, sending that text? Right. The risk is, what? Looking a little silly, right? Getting your feelings hurt. Maybe just really screwing it up and hurting the other participants. Come on, the risk is near zero. So that means you can proceed with action for minimal skill. Okay, so not sure if I said it, but you need to learn how to take action. All right. Now, I didn't come up with Eat That Frog. It's actually based on a book. This book is not a network marketing book. This is a business book. This is for anybody that wants to stop procrastinating. There's a lot more steps in there, a lot more, things to organize your whole life, right? Because if the rest of your life isn't prioritized and you're having satisfaction, in the other areas outside of action, the odds of you having productivity and satisfaction within Activz is probably going to be really low or zero, okay? But again, I'm not saying go out and spend hours. This is actually a short read if you wanted more help in it. I get nothing from promoting this book, by the way. You can just go to Amazon. But I'm telling you, those 4 steps we went over and the notes that you can download, again, that's enough to get started. The DMO, that's enough. You don't have to say, well, you know what? I'll buy this book and I'll wait a few days for it to get delivered and then I'll spend a month reading it. Okay, forget that. I'm not giving you that excuse. Again, skill level, what do you need? You don't need that much. So I think I've just come up on my 30 minutes. So thank you so much for your precious time this morning. I really hope this was valuable. And really, my only drive in this is to make you successful. That will make me the happiest person in the world. So thank you, everybody.